Hi, we're Liam and Fernanda, and we're gonna answer 5 burning questions to help you decide if a trip to Switzerland is for you. Jumping right in, our first question is, what were our top 5 experiences? Number 1 was the Augstmahorn hike. We parked our car in this specific lot in order to avoid the 17-kilometer trail from Harderklum. It only took us 2.5 hours to the top, and although it involved some pretty steep exertion, the view was so worth it. A nice bonus is that this is one of the few hikes where you don't have to pay for a gondola.
Number 2 was the Ocean and Lake hike, and this is probably one of the best ones you can do in the Interlaken region. For us, because we didn't want a crazy long hike, we took the last gondola up, so when we got to the top, everybody else was leaving. Bear in mind that because it's the last gondola, you have to walk back down, but with this hike, it's all downhill on the way back. And so we got to the lake and we watched the sunset, pretty much just the two of us, so that was awesome.
Our number 3 was the Hornli Hut. We found the Hornli Hut entirely by accident when we were researching where you could sleep the closest possible to the Matterhorn. This is the hut where professional mountain climbers sleep before they attempt the dangerous climb up the Matterhorn in the middle of the night. It took us 2.5 hours to get to this hut, and it was really intense, but it was so worth it. Although it was a bit expensive, it included dinner and breakfast, and the view in the morning was unbeatable.
Number 4 was the Funky Chocolate Club in the Interlaken region. And this was on the pricier side, but it was pretty fun to do. She gave us a demo of all the different types of chocolate, and we made 6 bars in total. And we used those for like our friends' souvenirs. Like we even wrote their names on some of them in chocolate. The best part was, at the end there was leftovers in the piping bags, and we asked to take that home with us. And we later melted it in the microwave and made a homemade fondue with grocery store strawberries. So that saved us quite a lot of money because we didn't have to get fondue while we were in Switzerland.
Our number 5 was Fluhap Hut. This was another amazing mountain hut. We took the gondola up mid-afternoon and started the about 1 hour hike to the base of this hut. The view in the morning on Stellasee Lake was absolutely worth the hype. We did learn, however, that every Saturday morning there is a gondola that can take you up there before sunrise if you don't want to sleep at the hut. This is a very well kept secret and it's not posted anywhere, so we would recommend asking the gondola operators the exact time of when that starts. But the hut was a really cool experience. What is our sample itinerary, Liam?
Well, we spent 2.5 weeks in Switzerland in August, and we hit the Appenzell region, Lucerne, Grindelwald, Interlaken, Lauterbrunnen, Zermatt, and then back to Zurich to fly home. And if you want to check that itinerary out, it's in our description below. Okay, the big question that everyone's probably here for, how much did this thing cost? Well, it wasn't cheap, I'll say that. Probably one of the most expensive vacations we've ever done. We'll break the cost into 4 categories. There's travel, food, accommodation, and
activities.
For
transport, we paid $245 USD in fees because we bought our flight on Aeroplan points. For the rental car for 16 days, we paid $500 USD for the entire trip. And then for gondolas, we paid, wait for it, $621 USD for the 2 of us for the whole entire trip. We didn't get the Swiss half pass for our trip, but when we calculated the difference, we wouldn't have saved that much money, so it wasn't that big of a loss.
But if you know which gondolas you're gonna take, it could be worth it for you to get the half pass.
And in our opinion, the gondolas in many cases are non-negotiable if you want to avoid doing switchbacks before you even start your hike.
Yeah. For accommodation, we went through a whole range of different places trying to save money, from camping all the way up to the mountain huts, which were the most expensive. Camping averaged around 50 USD per night, I would say. And the mountain huts, the Hornli Hut in particular, was 368 USD for 1 night.
It included food, but still, that's a lot.
Yeah, so it ranges quite a lot. Basically, our whole trip, we didn't have an attached private bathroom, like at most of the places, at all of the places we stayed. Some of them we had a private detached bathroom, and some we just had shared bathroom with campsite residents and other residents.
And climbers and a whole lot of people.
So if you want it cheap, you're gonna be in a hostel or sharing bathrooms with other people, most likely.
In terms of activities, the highest cost was the gondolas that we had to keep taking to get up the mountain to start the hike. We did do canyoning for 175 USD per person, but honestly it wasn't worth it because we've done way better canyoning in New Zealand before. And the tobogganing we did, surprisingly, wasn't that expensive at 11 USD per ride. And same with the mountain carts, they were only 35 USD for the two of us, and they were super fun. So when you think, I'm gonna hike and it's gonna be free, that is the case, but the gondola is not free. So it's a bit of a bummer when you're there.
Yeah, pretty much if you want the hike to be pleasant a lot of the time, because these things are so high to get up to, you kind of have to pay for the gondola, and so the hike is not actually free. Something to consider.
Question number 4 is, what is the fine print?
Like, what are the gotchas that you did not know were gonna happen?
My first gotcha is that even if you visit in the summer, it is pretty cold in the morning and at night. We're Canadian, so trust us when we say it's cold and you need to bring a fleece to stay cozy.
You have to pay for the water, even if it's tap water. It can be as low as 250 franc, but every single meal that adds up, so that's super annoying. If you can, bring your own like bottled water if the restaurant allows it, but otherwise you're gonna be paying 2 to 10 franc just for water.
Our next gotcha is that this trip is really weather dependent. We had days when we woke up really excited to hike and it was gray. We were just looking into the void. So keep that in mind. Don't be disappointed if some of the hikes don't work out, and try to time your hiking days for when you'll have the best weather.
Yeah, I really wanted to see the view at the first hut we stayed at.
Of Scheffler Ridge.
Scheffler Ridge, and it was just white. Like you could see 5 meters away, and that was it.
So disappointing.
There's lots of places that have free Wi-Fi, but they text you a code. So if you don't have a cell phone plan, then you can't use it. And we had a data only plan, so keep that in mind if you wanted to use free Wi-Fi at certain spots.
Another important thing to know is that there are car-free villages in Switzerland, like Zermatt, for example. So you're going to have to train into these cities to get the full experience. We actually made the mistake of booking a hotel in a car-free village, so we had to figure out how to park our car who knows where, training up to this accommodation and training back down, and it was not worth the schlep or the time. So make sure when you're booking your accommodation that you know whether it's car-free or not.
2 car-free places we know for sure are Zermatt and Wengen, which is close to Lauterbrunnen. The last tip is you can buy lunches at grocery stores, and it is cheaper than going to a restaurant. Co-op, for example, has great sandwich options, and each sandwich is 6 to 8 franc. So it is cheaper, but it's still not as cheap as you would think it would be.
Question number 5 is, what is the schlep to joy ratio? Here we are considering the logistics of executing this trip versus the enjoyment out of this vacation. I would give our trip to Switzerland a 4. If you're a mountain lover and you love hiking, it is absolutely worth the visit. However, if nature isn't your thing, it's going to be really, really expensive and might not be worth the visit.
Yeah, in my opinion, it's also a 4 because the cost is so high that it's great and everything, but it might be a little bit too expensive for a lot of people. A good alternative could be Austria though. We ended up camping there by mistake, and the food was a lot cheaper, the people were great, and we heard it has great hikes as well.
And to clarify, by mistake, we mean that we thought the campground was in Switzerland, but it was actually on the Austrian border. So let us know your thoughts in the description below if you're planning a trip to Switzerland coming up soon.